This video will guide you through the process of replacing a fuel injector on a 2010 Nissan Altima. Fuel injectors are located on the engine's intake manifold, just ahead of the inlet valve. If the engine has been running, let it cool sufficiently before starting work to avoid burns from hot parts. And always wear personal protective equipment, including rubber gloves and safety goggles, when working on a vehicle. Next, begin the removal process. Follow these next steps. 1. Remove the engine compartment cover. 2. Carefully removing the fuel pump relay, number 32, from the intelligent power distribution module. Start the engine and allow it stall. Crank the engine 2 or 3 times to release the remaining fuel pressure. Finally, turn the ignition off to fully release the fuel pressure. 3. Remove the front air duct. 4. Disconnect the fuel hose quick connector from the fuel tube. Release any clamps as needed. 5. Remove the bolts securing the intake manifold to the engine. 6. On the front side of the engine, disconnect the subharness for the injector and remove it from its bracket. 7. Loosen the bolts securing the fuel rail to the intake manifold. Gently lift the fuel rail gently to detach the injectors from the manifold. Be careful not to damage the nozzle. 8. Carefully disconnect the electrical connector from each injector. Remove the mounting bolts securing the injectors to the fuel rail. Gently rock and twist each injector to release it from the fuel rail. Finally, remove the old O-rings to complete the removal process. Next, perform a thorough visual inspection of the fuel injectors. Check the fuel injector surfaces for any cracks, dents, chip-off, scratches, or damage to the connector. Check the fuel injector connections for evidence of fuel leaks. Finish by installing the fuel injectors. 1. Lubricate the new O-rings on the fuel side and nozzle side of each injector with a small amount of clean engine oil. 2. Insert a new clip into the clip mounting groove on the fuel injector. Make sure the projection of the fuel injector matches the notch on the clip. Carefully position the new injectors into their respective positions on the fuel rail. Be sure the clip is attached to each injector. Use a torque impact wrench to secure the injectors to the fuel rail. Make sure the fuel rail flange fits securely into the groove on the clip, and that the injectors are secure. Reconnect the electrical connector to each injector. 3. Lower the fuel rail onto the intake manifold and reattach the retaining bolts or clips that secure the fuel rail. 4. Reconnect the subharness for the injector on the engine's front side. Use a torque impact wrench to reattach the subharness to the bracket. First tighten to 10 Nm, then tighten again to 22 Nm. 5. Tighten the bolts securing the intake manifold to the engine. 6. Reconnect the fuel hose quick connector to the fuel rail and secure the clamp as needed. 7. Reinstall the front intake air duct. 8. Reinstall the engine cover to complete the installation. 9. Turn the ignition on without starting the engine to apply fuel pressure to the fuel line. Alternatively, start the engine and rev it slightly. Check all connections, any leaks, and listen for unusual noises while checking for smooth engine performance. This concludes the procedure for replacing a fuel injector for Nissan Altima 2010. Thank you for watching.